How's it going, everybody? It's Eon here, and welcome to a Metal Gear discussion video. So, recently I put out a video compiling some Reddit posts by Konami US's community managers that basically aim to reassure fans that there is more Metal Gear coming to consoles, and that they are currently considering the direction that the series will take in the foreseeable future. One interesting quote was this: "It can be hard for fans. One day I hope we may earn you back and surprise you." And this was from Ben Keeney, who is one of the community managers at Konami US. And that's certainly a tall order considering the fiasco regarding Metal Gear Solid 5's alleged missing Chapter 3, the cut Kingdom of the Flies mission, the debacle between Kojima and Konami, and Kojima leaving Metal Gear as a whole behind to start up his new company and studio and whatnot. But I think there are ways Konami could do it if they play their cards right. Of course, we would have to assume for a second that the higher-ups over at Japan actually give a fuck about the fans, but hey, let's just fantasize for a moment here, I guess. So, how could Konami win us back? Well, there are safer ways and there are riskier ways. The safest way, in my opinion, would be to overhaul past Metal Gear games. Those gorgeous Snake Eater pachinko cutscenes definitely gave many Metal Gear fans, myself included, an appetite for an HD remake of what is arguably considered to be the best game in the series due to its fine balance of story and gameplay. And Konami has proven through the pachinko cutscenes that when they actually try, they can pull off some pretty amazing things. The pachinko cutscenes are undeniably gorgeous, but most striking of all is how accurate they are to the source material. If Konami can do just that by overhauling Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater with gorgeous new graphics while maintaining everything about the original game, they could have an easy win. No new cutscenes, no extra weird flares like Twin Snake's ludicrous cutscenes, just perfectly recreate Snake Eater as Kojima and team originally built it piece by piece with enhanced graphics, and Konami would have themselves a relatively risk-free way to begin to earn back the trust of fans. Now, I use the term risk-free rather loosely, as even remakes have their fair share of risks. It is like asking someone to touch up the Mona Lisa or something, which is old, but do you actually want to have entities that you don't trust go at it and lay their hands on something so valuable? In remaking Snake Eater, Konami would be walking on some mighty thin ice. After all, they would be tweaking what's considered to be a near-perfect package, but if they can pull their shit together and do this right, and if they adhere to the source material down to a T, they could have a winner, because Metal Gear Solid 3 could use a graphical enhancement. With its outdoor jungle setting and with some beautiful scenery like the final battle against the boss, I mean, stuff like that could look gorgeous if they managed to overhaul it just right, and just playing through that with graphics like the ones in the pachinko machines, I mean, that could be awesome right there. Now, as far as gameplay is concerned, I wouldn't mind some touch-ups here and there. For example, they could find a way to streamline those menus that you constantly have to dive into for things like equipping camos, items, and weapons, healing, and whatnot. You know, just make them easier, quicker, and snappier to access. One idea I have is making camos part of the in-game items menu. Just bring up the item menu, scroll to the camo section, and then just select the one you want. Little things like that. I also wouldn't mind if they tweaked the mechanics and controls to be a bit more streamlined. If you ask me, MGS3's mechanics definitely haven't aged all that well, as it often requires players to press too many buttons at a time to do some very simple actions like peeking and shooting and whatnot, which left a lot of room for unintentional errors, so I wouldn't mind some modernizations in that respect. Snake Eater 3D, the one for 3DS, actually added some really nice tweaks to gameplay, like crouch walking and over-the-shoulder and first-person aiming that works like it would in a conventional shooter, a lot like Metal Gear Solid 5, which allows for easy strafing and aiming and shooting. The problem with the 3DS version, however, was that it ran at a lousy 20 frames per second, and also the 3DS's low screen resolution didn't do the graphics justice. But if they managed to overhaul Snake Eater's visuals while tweaking gameplay with improved menus and with mechanics like Snake Eater 3D's controls, it would be perfect in my opinion, and the most risk-free way for Konami to start earning our trust back. A riskier move for Konami would be to remake Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2. That's an exciting project. But unlike Metal Gear Solid 3, those two games are quite old and would require that they essentially remake the whole game from the ground up, so it's a far riskier venture. They'd have to rework some of the story, particularly Metal Gear 1, tweak the level design to match what I'm assuming would be modernized gameplay mechanics, and there's a lot more room for failure. But if they nail this project, fans would love it. High risk, high reward. And a remake of Metal Gear 1 and 2 is a nice balance in which the development team would be able to have more creative freedom than with a Snake Eater remake, while still having some guidance from the existing original source material. Furthermore, Metal Gear 1 and 2 aren't considered to be quite as sacred, if you will, as Metal Gear Solid 3, so I think fans would be a lot more open-minded about the prospect of such a project. So while being a riskier venture in terms of how much room for error there is because of how much less they have to work with compared to like a Snake Eater remake, there's a lot of potential to make fans excited and to make some really great Metal Gear games. For me, ideally, this is the course of action that I would want Konami to make. It would feel just new enough while also feeling familiar. And finally, that brings me to the riskiest venture that Konami can take with a console Metal Gear game, and what I personally believe is what they'll actually do, and that is to make a new entry to the series from scratch. Whether it be a sequel to the existing series or a complete reboot that's separate from Kojima's work, without Kojima at the helm, it's uncertain whether the new Metal Gear team would be able to match the quality of previous games in the series. After all, a big part of why Metal Gear is so successful is the attention to detail, quirky elements, and crazy way of thinking that Kojima brings to the table. Without that, Metal Gear just wouldn't be quite the same. Now, the Konami US community managers did hint that many of the people who worked on past games are still with Konami, so perhaps there is a Kojima protege who's worked with him enough to be able to follow in his footsteps. That'd be great, that's the hope at least. Now, as I mentioned before, with this course of action, Konami could either aim to make a sequel to the existing series or do a reboot. Assuming the intention is to make a sequel, I would say that Konami's best course of action would be to make a Metal Gear game about the boss. It's something that Kojima himself expressed interest in, it's something that many people would be excited for, and I think it's a natural direction for the series to head towards. With how little lore there is about anything prior to Snake Eater, it's the perfect setting to give the new Metal Gear team a ton of creative freedom and room to flesh out the lore, and to give fans something to be excited for. And I mean, come on, a World War II setting stealth action game? That sounds really cool if you ask me. But equally as likely as Konami continuing Kojima's story is the possibility that they will scrap the whole thing and reboot the series in an attempt to separate themselves from Kojima's work. This would be by far the riskiest way Konami could handle this situation. Metal Gear fans are quite fond of what Kojima has built, and for Konami to scrap everything that's been established and start anew with the confidence of surpassing or matching Kojima's work, that would definitely be a ballsy move, with a lot of room for error. But at the same time, maybe keeping the new Metal Gear separate from Kojima's work is for the best. Perhaps doing so is the best way to respect Kojima's work and leave his legacy as is, while paving the road towards a new direction for the series with a whole new team. I mean, let's face it, if you're expecting the next Metal Gear game to be like Kojima's games, you're in for a rude awakening. Kojima's gone and we have to be realistic. The new Metal Gear game will definitely be different. I have little doubt that it will still be like a stealth action game and whatnot, but with someone new at the helm, it's bound to feel different on some fundamental level. But again, perhaps a fresh start would be the best course of action in the long run, as it would allow us to keep our memories of Kojima's Metal Gear series without it being tarnished should Konami's new Metal Gear game not deliver on story or gameplay or both. Also, as scary as a reboot of Metal Gear by Konami sounds, it could also be exciting. It's completely new territory. If they can build a competent new team, perhaps these fresh minds with fresh ideas can cultivate a product that fans and newcomers alike might be able to enjoy. But regardless of whether Konami intends to overhaul a Metal Gear Solid title, remake a Metal Gear title, make a sequel to the existing series, or reboot the whole series, what will determine whether Konami will win back fans is the developer's ability to simply make a cohesive, polished, and good game. It doesn't need to be huge like Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, it just needs to be good, and on some level it needs to feel like Metal Gear. And to be frank, Konami's track record hasn't been all that good lately. Franchises like Castlevania and Silent Hill have all but gone downhill since their original creators left. And with the company's last renowned developer Kojima gone, you can hardly blame someone for thinking that Metal Gear could be headed nowhere but downhill from here. I want to believe that the curse can be broken, but Konami has yet to give us any confidence. For now, all we can really do is wait and see. I'm willing to give Konami the benefit of the doubt, but they have a lot of work ahead of them. Before I get excited for any prospects, I'll wait until Konami has anything to show for it. But until then, all I can do is hope that they manage to somehow earn our trust back. What are your thoughts on the matter? Would you want Konami's next Metal Gear game to be a remake or a remaster, a sequel or a reboot? Which do you think they will actually go for? Do you think there's potential for them to win us back? Let us know in the comments below, and to be further updated on Metal Gear news, stay tuned right here on Yong Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Yong out.